There is a vault buried deep inside a frozen mountain on a remote Norwegian island, halfway between mainland Norway and the North Pole. It was built to survive the end of civilization. Inside it are over 1 million seed samples from almost every country on Earth, stored at -18 degrees Celsius, preserved against a future where the crops that feed humanity might otherwise be lost forever. It is called the Svalbard Global Seed Vault, and the reason it exists tells you everything you need to know about how fragile the food system that keeps 8 billion people alive really is. Let me start with a number that should alarm you. In the last century, we have lost approximately 75% of the world's crop diversity. 3/4 of the food plant varieties that existed 100 years ago are now extinct. Not endangered, extinct, gone forever. We did not lose them to disease or disaster. We chose to stop growing them. Modern industrial agriculture has converged on a tiny number of high-yield, commercially optimized varieties for each major crop. Today, 75% of the world's food comes from just 12 plant species and 5 animal species. 30% of all farmland on Earth is devoted to just 4 crops: wheat, rice, corn, and soybeans. This is efficient, it is productive, it feeds billions, and it is terrifyingly dangerous. Because genetic uniformity is an open invitation to catastrophe. When every field of wheat in a region is genetically identical, a single pathogen that can infect one plant can infect them all, every single one. This is not theoretical. It has happened repeatedly. In the 1840s, the Irish population depended heavily on a single variety of potato called the Irish lumper. When a water mold called Phytophthora infestans arrived from the Americas, it found a landscape of genetically identical hosts with no natural resistance. It destroyed virtually the entire potato crop in a single season. The result was the Great Famine. 1 million people starved to death. Another million fled the country as refugees. Ireland's population dropped by 25% in a decade and has never fully recovered. The country has fewer people today than it did in 1840. In the 1970s, a fungal disease called Southern Corn Leaf Blight swept through the American Midwest and wiped out 15% of the entire United States corn crop in a single growing season. The reason it spread so fast was that the vast majority of commercial corn planted across the country shared the same genetic vulnerability, a mitochondrial gene called T cytoplasm that had been bred into most varieties because it made seed production more convenient and cost-effective. One gene, shared by most of the crop. And a pathogen found the key. 15% of the corn harvest of the most agriculturally advanced nation on Earth, gone in one season. Now imagine that happening to wheat on a global scale, or to rice, which is the primary food source for more than 3 billion people. Imagine a pathogen that targets the specific genetic profile shared by the majority of the world's rice varieties. The consequences would be famine on a scale modern civilization has never experienced. And we have deliberately, systematically narrowed the genetic base of our food supply to the point where such a scenario is not far-fetched at all. This is where Svalbard comes in. The vault was opened in February 2008. Carved deep into the permafrost and sandstone of a mountain on the island of Spitsbergen in the Svalbard archipelago. The location was chosen with extraordinary care. It is above the projected sea level rise from even the most extreme climate change scenarios. The surrounding permafrost provides natural freezing temperatures even if the mechanical refrigeration system fails completely. The island is politically stable, geologically stable, and remote enough to be naturally protected from most human conflicts and disasters. Inside, the seeds are stored in sealed 4-ply foil packets, placed inside sealed boxes, arranged on shelves inside 3 vault rooms tunneled into the mountain. The temperature is maintained at -18 degrees Celsius. At this temperature, most crop seeds remain viable for centuries. Some could theoretically last thousands or even tens of thousands of years. The vault currently holds over 1.2 million seed samples, representing more than 6,000 plant species, deposited by gene banks from virtually every country on Earth. It is the ultimate backup drive for global agriculture. And it has already been used in a real emergency. In 2015, researchers made the first ever withdrawal from the vault to replace seeds from a gene bank in Aleppo, Syria that had been damaged and made inaccessible by the civil war. That Syrian gene bank, maintained by the International Center for Agricultural Research in the dry areas, had contained some of the world's most important collections of wheat, barley, and lentil varieties specifically adapted to hot, dry growing conditions. Those genetics are irreplaceable for breeding drought-resistant crops as climate change makes arid regions even drier. If the backup copies in Svalbard had not existed, those genetics would have been permanently lost. But even Svalbard has its vulnerabilities. In 2017, unusually warm temperatures caused meltwater to seep into the entrance tunnel of the vault. No seeds were damaged, but the incident forced expensive repairs and upgrades. The symbolic message was unmistakable. The vault built to protect humanity's food supply against global catastrophe was already being affected by the climate change that represents one of the biggest threats to that food supply. We built a Doomsday vault because we recognized, at some institutional level, that the food system we have constructed is dangerously fragile. But we have not addressed the underlying fragility itself. We are still planting vast monocultures of genetically uniform crops. We are still losing irreplaceable crop varieties every year to neglect and abandonment. We are still betting the survival of 8 billion people on the continued health of a handful of plant species. Svalbard is not a solution. It is an insurance policy. And the fact that we needed to build it at all should tell you everything about how badly we have missed